¿Qué tal amigos? ¿Cómo están? Bienvenidos una vez más al canal. El día de hoy estamos con el equipo de Subsocial. Tenemos al fundador Alex y tenemos también a Zach, parte de la comunidad que apoya muchas partes del proyecto. How are you doing today, guys?
Muy bien.
Muy bien. Alex, you know a little Spanish or no?
Buenas noches. That's what I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bueno,
Also, I remember it's read Subsocial.
yeah. There's some community members posting there in Spanish, so that's cool. But today we're gonna deep dive a little bit into Subsocial and the team. As you can see, it's gonna be pretty interesting. And first of all, maybe I wanted to ask you guys a little bit of your background and a little bit of what you do in Subsocial. Maybe start with Alex.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Thank you for having us here on this nice channel targeting Latin America and Spanish-speaking people. It's a big pleasure for us. So I'm Alex Simon. I'm founder of Subsocial. I am a professional software developer and have a master's degree in computer science. I've been working as a full stack web developer since 2008. And in 2017, I started programming on Solidity, on Ethereum, and found its limitations. So that's in 2018-19, I was looking for a framework to build DApp-specific chain so that we could have a decentralized application that is powered by a scalable backend that is blockchain. And this is how I found Substrate, because Substrate is upgradable blockchain framework by Parity, and Parity is founded by Gavin Wood, who is co-founder of Ethereum, and he was CTO of Ethereum. So he and his team know how to work and build a blockchain. That's why it was one of the reasons that we like Substrate, that we can rely on big expertise of people who know what they're doing. And so since 2019, we have been developing Subsocial, and right now we have working so-called beta.net. This is a solid chain built on top of Substrate that is functioning normally, and it supports the web application that built on top of it, and people are using it for more than a year. During this time, we applied and successfully delivered 2 technical grants to Web3 Foundation. It's an organization that is responsible for education and promotion of Polkadot, Kusama, Substrate, and related technology. And also we are part of web participants of Substrate Builders Program run by Parity, and took part in Web3 bootcamp by Web3 Foundation and on-chain blockchain from China. And we love to build products and deliver them, ship them. So we are not just talking about something, but we are true builders and shippers.
Of course, I like that. I definitely see how you work and upgrade stuff very quickly. So that's really cool. That's really cool that you have been working alongside the Parity Foundation, stuff like that. Definitely a big plus for me. And what about you, Zach? When did you hop into the Subsocial team?
I've only been here about 3.5 months. Started at the beginning of August. Some background, I got a finance degree, worked at a mortgage bank for a while. That was really boring. So now I'm doing this. It's a lot more fun. Definitely awesome to be part of a very innovative project and team in a very innovative industry. So we're having a lot of fun. It's definitely kind of hectic, but we're trying to make some big stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Pretty nice. Yeah. Definitely something revolutionary what you're building right here, Alex. And I want you to explain to the people, because I think this concept is too large for people to understand, because there's nothing similar, I guess. So can you explain to us what is Subsocial?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to continue a phrase about that people usually tries to compare to something, and this is totally normal because people are busy with different things. Some busy with their daily jobs, some busy with scrolling through Instagram and crypto Twitter. It's totally fine. Like sometimes Biff can spend hours reading through chats here and there, but it's helpful to understand what's happening around, because a lot of things happens. And the thing is that for people, it's easier to digest something by comparing to something similar. And people loves DeFi because DeFi proved that there could be some swaps, new liquidity pools and all this stuff. And there is high probability to make some returns in a week, in a month, year, etc. Also, people start understanding these NFTs. But what is interesting, I'm not sure how many people remember that NFTs appeared at the end of 2017, and throughout 2018 they kind of forgot about this NFT, and in 2019 not everyone was mentioning this, and then into 2020 when everyone thought that DeFi hype is kind of stabilizing and became stale, and people start looking like, okay, what's next hype? What was popular or more developed than anything else besides DeFi? And then like, okay, we have NFTs. NFTs could be beautiful picture, images, art, and everything. It's easier to digest, understand, and then NFTs hype took off. And I believe that right now with social networking can be a thing. Once we have more real applications, one of which we are working on, and there are some other projects working on this. And once there will be like a set of some good application to showcase that this concept can work, people easily, like in a couple of months, they will be telling everybody else that I believed in this every time. I thought it will work, but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, maybe you can explain what is Subsocial now.
Yeah, so I'll start with on the topic of comparisons. A quote that I came up with recently was comparing Subsocial to Facebook is like comparing Polkadot to Ethereum. They're not the same thing at all. You know, Ethereum's a layer 1, Polkadot's a layer 0. So we can kind of think of Subsocial as a layer 0 for social networking, and Facebook would be a layer 1 that would be built on top of a social networking infrastructure. So basically, Subsocial is, we call it a social networking platform as opposed to a social network. Basically, the idea is that you build your own social networks on top of it. So, you know, people that have been to check out our web app, that's basically a social network, the one that we built on top of the Subsocial technology. And currently that web app is also called Subsocial. I think we're probably going to be renaming it because it's a little confusing right now. But basically, you can build all these different social networks on top of the Subsocial technology. And so you can kind of think of a social network as, you know, the website or the mobile app that you're using. And then traditional social networks like Facebook or Twitter, they have their user interface, and then they have their backend with all their servers, databases, all of that. But those two are connected and we can't separate them. And they're different. You know, Facebook has separate servers from Twitter. So all the users' data and stuff is totally separate. With Subsocial, we just have one backend, which is the blockchain, and anyone can connect to that. So you can make a bunch of different websites that look different, different features, different functionality, all of that, and they will all connect to the Subsocial blockchain, and everyone's data, their followers, friends, whatever you want to call it, that's all going to be on the Subsocial blockchain. So if you move around between these different social networks that are built on top of the chain, you can take your follower base with you. You'll still have your post history, all this data. So it's really super shared. You can own your social graph.
Yeah. So in short, Subsocial is a truly open social graph with built-in finance.
Okay.
In super short, it's not social network. A social
Okay.
network could be built on top of it. And we build this web app, as Biff said, but there could be endless number of variations, similar or super different.
Okay, so let me explain and maybe tell me if I'm correct for the audience, but Subsocial would be the base layer or the backend, and then other networks can be deployed on top of the backend. And so, for example, Subsocial could be the backend for the future Facebook, Twitter, etc., but they're all in the same network, right? So the resources that you grew in one network, you can use them in other networks as well because they're all connected. So it's less complicated for a user to go through different networks because they all are connected from the backend through Subsocial, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is what I call shared networks effect, because like in 2010 from 2010 to 2013, there were a lot of tries to create alternative social networking applications, and usually they suffer from not having a network effect, but by building on top of blockchain, we can have this interesting feature that whatever number of different social applications we have, and through it doesn't matter through what application person joins the Subsocial network in its own, and then because at the very end this network effect of the whole Subsocial will be just growing, because people join it through this app, through that app, through another app, and usually people were afraid to start using yet another social application, like let's say alternative to Instagram, alternative to Twitter, Reddit, whatever, because they think like, okay, this time I need to create my profile again, I need to invite my friends to follow me again, and then I will spend months or even a couple years on this, and then this app is shut down. But with Subsocial or any other social networking protocol built on top of blockchain, we should not be afraid of this because blockchain is open permissionless system on its own. And what does it mean? Is that any apps that is deployed on top of it, they will contribute the network effect to a cumulative shared network effects of the whole blockchain. Like on Ethereum, such as on Ethereum, we have tons of different DeFi applications, and if a person joins through a DeFi application A, another person through DeFi application B, another one through DeFi application C, at the very end, we will have 3 people on Ethereum, where every person joins through a different dApp. And then if one of these dApps will shut down, we still have these people on Ethereum, and they can switch to another dApp because they just use MetaMask. So the same principles apply to social networking when you deal through Subsocial.
2 other things I want to add. The name Subsocial, the social part's obviously because of social stuff. The sub prefix came because it's built on top of Substrate, but also just happened to work out where the sub prefix can refer to stuff that's like under stuff, like subways goes under cities. So Subsocial sort of like, it's in the name, it's the underlying social architecture. And then just to further illustrate the point of the front ends and the back ends being separated, I'll give my most common example that I use is we could build another front end, a website that is basically Twitter built on Subsocial. So we could make it look just like Twitter. The Subsocial blockchain, it has functionality for upvotes and downvotes like on Reddit, but Twitter doesn't have a downvote, they just have the like button. So you could build a front end that's based on Subsocial and you just only have a like button. So the downvotes would still be there on chain, but if you went on that website, there wouldn't be a way to downvote stuff. You could go to a different social network built on Subsocial and find that same piece of content and downvote it there if you wanted. But people that were on the Twitter version wouldn't even see it because the front end just doesn't even support it. So you can have all sorts of custom functionality like that.
Nice. That's definitely really cool. And I liked that you specifically mentioned that the app that many people know, like Subsocial, that's only an app on top of the actual product that it's that Subsocial blockchain, right? So you guys, if you've been to a Subsocial app, that's not the actual like end product. That's just that's just an app built on top of Subsocial. So I definitely think it would be useful for many people that are confused to change the name, but that's really interesting and definitely makes it more clear for people to understand.
So for example, we have another app that is called SubID. It's a decentralized portfolio manager for Kusama assets like balances on different Kusama chains and NFTs. And we plan to add and display your spaces and posts from Subsocial. So then imagine we adding showing your spaces and posts from Subsocial and SubID, and then why SubID is not one of the applications on top of Subsocial, right? So it will be another application of Subsocial. And we can create brainstorm endless number of different applications, simplified, more complex, and all the stuff. And we're planning to bootstrap this through organizing hackathons and sponsoring it from Subsocial on-chain treasury in the future after we get slot on Kusama and all the stuff.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds like a very useful tool for developers, Subsocial, definitely. And you mentioned briefly social finance. I wanted to ask you about that. What is social finance?
Yeah, Mr. Beef.
Yeah, so it's basically the intersection of social networking and decentralized finance. So we call it SoFi for short. So you can basically think of it as the financialization of social interactions. And it might take a while to gain traction, sort of like when, Facebook first came out, people didn't want to post pictures of their kids or what they had for lunch. But now everyone does it all the time and doesn't think about it. So we think something similar like that will happen. We've already had people kind of complain that if you go on our web app and you go to someone's profile, it shows their sub balance. And they're like, what, people can see how much money I have? And yeah, I mean, that's a feature of a blockchain. It's all already out there. So even if we didn't show it, someone else could just make a website that shows it anyway. So I think it'll be a bit of a hurdle and maybe like a societal change, I guess, where people get comfortable with other people being able to see how many tokens they have or something like that. And of course, you can still have like a separate anonymous wallet where most of your money is. So social finance is, we're going to be integrating stuff like tipping and subscriptions, maybe pay-per-view, other stuff like that. And some Web2 platforms have this, like you can subscribe to someone's Patreon, or I think Twitter just added tips. But basically, we're going to be doing it in a decentralized, permissionless way. So if you're a content creator and someone tips you or subscribes to you, or you're selling ads in your space, you get 100% of the revenue. Like I think YouTube takes like 45% of the ad revenue, which is just totally insane. So we're going to be working to make sure that creators can capture the full value of their work. And so the community members will be able to support them much better.
Okay, sounds interesting. So you're gonna have some financial tools integrated into the social networks that are built on top of Subsocial, you would say?
Yes, and not only because again, this is blockchain. People are free to add whatever they want. And for example, in terms of any kind of integrations, not only just finance, but like with NFTs, with I don't know, digital decentralized identity, prediction markets, whatever. There could be native blockchain to blockchain integrations, and there could be integrations through front end. For example, if you just want to trigger some functionality to call it from one app to trigger functionality on blockchains, and you don't need blockchain to blockchain integration sometimes. But if you want to combine two operations on a couple of blockchains and in some atomic way, so that if one operation fails and second is not executed and vice versa, then you would like to have cross blockchain functionality, and Or also, if you want to have, let's say, tokens of one chain A on chain B in maximum decentralized ways, and again, you want to have this chain-to-chain integrations. So what I'm trying to say is that, for example, right now in Subastas we have tons of integrations already. We show lots of balances from lots of Kusama chains that are parachains, solo chains, and all this stuff, and showing NFTs from different chains like unique network chain candidate and remark, and then state mine NFTs as well. So there are already tons of integrations, but for example, if you want, let's say, apply Zeitgeist prediction market mechanism and Futarchy to govern your space and Subsocial, then maybe you want to have this chain-to-chain integration. And then if you want to have a native token of stablecoin of Karura, for example, on Subsocial, and maybe if you want to send a tip, you don't need a chain-to-chain integration. But if you want to have future recurrent payments, then when every month chain automatically charges subscribers of particular space channel. So then you want to have this native integration because you want to have it automatic and in decentralized way. So it's the kind of like chain should trigger this. So this is where having parachain would be very interesting, beneficial to Subsocial and other chains. So we could have their functionality on our chain, they could have our functionality on their chains and all this stuff.
Okay, that sounds really useful. Do you have any planned collaborations with any projects that are already running parachains or will run parachains at some point?
I don't think we have anything set in stone yet. We've definitely got a list that we're working on. We're going to be getting in contact with them. We put out a blog post a couple weeks ago about why we were going for a parachain slot, and the majority of that post is about potential integrations we can do with the other parachains, because that's the main reason for getting a parachain, really. I can send you that link, but there's quite a big list of some that I just came up with off the top of my head. I'm sure there will be more down the line we can't think of yet, and then all sorts of other cool parachain projects that we don't even know about yet.
Yeah, definitely. I know many other projects founders and people from Parity and Web Foundation use Subsocial, so I think definitely some interesting things are going to come up at some point. But getting into that document that you mentioned, it mentioned that you're going to be two chains, right? At the beginning, at least, you're going to be the Subsocial network as we know it right now, and there's going to be Subsocial X. Can you explain the differences?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting. First, we have been thinking a lot about whether we want to remain solo chain, and then there is some benefits that we mentioned in that post, why it could be interesting to be a parachain, and then looks like there are pros and cons on both sides, and then we decided like why not to have two chains, and there are such things like bridges. And we could have, for example, even the same token that is bridged through both chains. And again, like SubID is my favorite example for any case. So, for example, SubID, it can be treated like a single product, but actually it consists of tons of different integrations. And all these integrations forms the whole product of SubID, right? So why Subsocial and social networking and finance, social finance, they cannot consist of several projects underneath. And for example, by being a solo chain, we can be, and we are much more performant in terms of execution of transactions, because on solo chain having 6-second blocks, and on parachain you have 12 seconds blocks. So during the 12 seconds of parachain time, parachain block time, you can have two blocks on solo chain, and from this solo chain, during this 12 seconds, you can have like about 4 seconds for transactions on solo chain. And in contrast on parachain, at least right now, because Parity plans to improve performance, but right now, during the same period of time, during the same 12 seconds, you have only half a second for transactions, And if you are active users of Moon River, and I'm sure that you are, I follow your Twitter, and I also quite a user of Moon River. And we noticed that gas price is rising and execution is kind of suffering, and who knows what will happen. But it's not. It's kind of related to this performance issues of parachain. So what does it mean is that such as right now we have lots of stuff happening on blockchain, and actually we have some good ideas how to make blockchain a lot more lightweight and take off-chain this stuff and have off-chain posting. But at least right now we have lots of stuff on chain, and by just migrating all this functionality to parachain, it could be very dramatic change, and maybe it could be like maybe 8 times less performant. So you just divide this 4 seconds of 12 seconds to blocks on solid chain to half a second. It's like 8 times. So like, oh my God, it's a big deal. And that's why we consulted with our advisors that work with in Polkadot, and they said like it could be an option to have 2 chains, and then on this current solid chain you continue like social networking functionality, and you don't need too big security in terms of monetary security for the social networking stuff. But for everything that is more related to finance, like, I don't know, tips or maybe selling your spaces, posts, selling, buying your usernames, whatever, any other possible functionality, recurrent payments in stable coins, and governance decisions, it makes sense to have them more secured by Kusama, for example, and also on parachain you can have these integrations. So this is a decision. Solid chain for performance, parachain for more financial security, and cross-chain native integrations.
And I'll also mention that Parity's planning on fixing the, well, I don't know if fixing is the right word, but speeding up the block times for the parachains to hopefully eventually get to where the parachains and the standalone chains are just as performant. And at that point, I will have to see what happens with the standalone chain, but then there wouldn't really be any incentive for anyone to use it. So we may sort of just stop running it, but everything that's on that chain, we can still have the web apps connected to it. So it's not like anything would be lost. Everyone would just migrate over to using the parachain.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Definitely what you mentioned, Alex. I have seen it, like the performance is a little bit clunky at the moment, so maybe we get some upgrades. I know maybe also, like, since Moon River is like EVM compatible, I think that makes it a little bit more slower than something built purely on Substrate.
This is one of the reasons we're building purely on Substrate, because we could build on smart contracts, but again, we will compete with other smart contracts on the chain. But having Subsocial built as a native functionality, it is as maximum as it could be in terms of performance.
Definitely. So, and if you have 2 chains, will the token be the same? Are you planning to have the same token or different tokens? And specifically, I wanted to ask, what is the use case for the Subsocial token? I heard, Alex, that you're planning to have a treasury. Yeah, so currently we're thinking that we will use the same token. If we will decide that it will be 2 tokens, then we will distribute proportionally amounts before issuing the new token, so should not be a problem at all. But right now we're leaning more towards having the same token across both chains, and currently I don't think that this is something bad, maybe more beneficial, because the token should be more stronger, because it could be used here and there. And in terms of utility, I think Zach can help.
Yeah, so the main use of the tokens, it's definitely a utility token. The main use is going to be doing transactions on the network, of course. And because Substrate, we can have fixed transaction costs, so you'll always know what they are ahead of time. We don't have the whole gas model that the EVM has. So you're going to be using the tokens for transactions. We're looking into possible ways to maybe stake some tokens. So we're going to have staking. It's proof of stake, just like Kusama. But we may also have the added bonus that if you stake a certain amount of tokens, you might get a certain number of free transactions every day. So this network's free to use because a lot of people are used to free, quote unquote, free social networks. Some other uses, you're going to need to have some if you want to run a validator node, or if you want to mint some social tokens, you'll probably have to lock up some sub tokens as well. And then of course, for all of the social finance stuff like sending tips, paying for subscriptions, you'll be able to use sub tokens for those. And we may also add support for other tokens from other parachains as well, if you wanted to use those, or some stable coins, something like that.
Great. Yeah, definitely interesting. So you're planning to run collators at least on the parachain at the moment. Okay.
Yeah. So if we run this solo chain, we also plan to relaunch it in a proof of stake mode, so that other validators can join, and then on parachain we also can have collators. So
Okay.
chances are that we could have validators on solo chain, collators on parachain. A lot of things, a lot of interesting things and possibilities for people to make it more decentralized.
Nice. Well, what I like is that you make choices depending on what's better. Like you keep trying, and that's definitely cool because you're not grounded to one thing that could mess up everything. You're always looking for the best model. So that's really interesting approach that you do. If the parachain is successful on Kusama, are you planning to move to Polkadot at some point, or do you think Kusama is enough?
Yeah, currently we don't really think about Polkadot. I think because I don't know, like I'm looking about other projects, and I see that it's quite hard to keep focus on several chains, right? So I mean, if they're kind of similar or very similar, like I don't want to call names, but sometimes it looks to me that there could be kind of like hidden plan to launch in Kusama, then launch in Polkadot, and I don't know, launch whatever else. And then like the whole business could be just launching parachains left and right. And at some point, I don't think that this is the right decision because like how you can spend enough time and energy on one strong product if you're splitting your energy across several products. I don't know, sometimes if it's a complementary product, it could make a lot of sense because this is one service, this is another service, and then you combine them. But if they are similar, you can end up with just okay, maybe Polkadot is more important. Let's keep focus there. And then contributors to different angles. So before we didn't even want to have two chains because of this keeping focus on one thing, but we keep this solid chains, and we will not have this interchain integrations, cross-chain integrations. If we will put our existing functionality on parachain, it will suffer from performance. So looks like we are obliged to have two chains. One is for performance solid chain, another one for integrations. But in terms of like Polkadot, it would sound like we having the same functionality on Kusama, having the same functionality on Polkadot, and then I think it could be hard to try to love all these children, equally.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good point. Maybe focus on one thing at the time. And if you're running two things at the same time, you're probably not going to put as much energy into both.
And Plus Parity is obviously super interested in working on the bridge. So from what I understand, one of the first or even first bridge in the Kusama ecosystem should be between Polkadot and Kusama. And if you have this bridge, it will be much easier to be able to trigger or get some functionality or value from Polkadot and Kusama. So it shouldn't be the biggest problem in the universe.
Yeah, I mean, like Alex was saying, there's not much reason for us to launch on Polkadot at the moment. And yeah, I don't think we have any plans for doing like a one chain on each, like a lot of the other projects are. But we may do something like Kilt down the road, where they launched on Kusama and then they're moving over to Polkadot. So if we do launch on Polkadot, it would probably be leaving Kusama to go to Polkadot. But that would depend on whether or not we think that there's a need to do that, because it's obviously more expensive.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good strategy in my eyes. Definitely, the Kilt, like they're doing it, I think that's a good approach. Just grow a good product on Kusama, and if it's popular enough, you'll get a slot on Polkadot. I wanted to ask you about the crowd loan, talking about securing a parachain. We were talking, you stopped actually your crowd loan, your current crowd loan right now, and you're planning to relaunch soon. Can you tell us what's the plan for the crowd loan? How much is the allocation of the token supply for the crowd loan contributors, and some details of that?
Yeah, so the previous crowd loan, it just ended. The cap was 100,000 KSM, and we were allocating 16.5% of our supply, 16.5 million tokens to that crowd loan. 15 million of that was guaranteed to be distributed, and then 1.5 million was for referral bonuses, which probably wouldn't all get used, and anything that was left over out of that would go to the treasury for the next crowd loan. Obviously, we opened the crowd loan pretty late, so we didn't want to slot this time, but we are going to be reopening another one pretty soon, and we're confident we can win either the first or second auction of this next round, so the next one or two auctions. I think we're still talking about this, but we'll probably leave the 16.5% the same. We may lower the cap. I don't think we will need 100,000 at all, and if we lower it, then we can, get higher rewards for the people that do contribute.
So 16.5% plus bonuses, and you don't have to tell us, but is there going to be other surprises maybe?
Maybe.
Okay. Sounds interesting. Well, yeah, we're looking forward. I know my community has contributed a lot, so we're gonna wait anxiously for the second round. But apart from that, I don't know if you wanna tell the guys maybe any details about the future crowd loan. If not, maybe I heard Alex, you're building something new, Sub AMA, where people are gonna give answers and questions.
Yeah, it's not another product. It's it's part of Subsocial web in just one of the spaces that we started, and we're inviting interesting people who are building or active members of the Kusama ecosystem. And we already had Billabong from the Tree Foundation. He is an educator. He wrote lots of wiki pages in Polkadot, and he doing webinars about Polkadot, Kusama, etc. And now we're collecting questions to the guy behind apes in Chaos DAO, right? So Zach invited him, and we're happy to see other people who are doing things. So yeah, it's one of our initiatives to have some interesting, unique content on Subsocial. Plus, just today we released another complementary product for SubID. It's called SubID bot for Telegram. So by adding this bot to your Telegram, you can see your contributions from Kusama and Polkadot in, kind of similar functionality that you have on SubID web app, but in future we're planning to add much more functionality, like viewing your balances and like notifications about new crowd loans started and all this stuff.
Awesome. That sounds incredible. I know you're a builder, so that app sounds pretty interesting. And you also integrated contribution directly through SubID, right, for the crowd loans?
Yeah, currently it works like a redirect button. So there is a contribute button, and if there is a bonus from project that goes to crowd loan, we usually insert this bonus on SubID. So it's an easy way for people to go to SubID, and by following this button, contribute button, they have a chance to get this bonus. So they don't need to look around for the bonuses.
Nice. No, I like SubID a lot. If any new person asks me, like, how can they see their address for the Polkadot.js app, I just asked them to go to SubID. It's like super simple. Oh. Like I've been onboarding like a lot of people in the last weeks, and I just tell them go to SubID, and now they just go to SubID because it's really easy. So definitely a very useful product for the community. I know people are still anxious for a really good user experience for a wallet, and this brings a lot of utility to the existing one. So that's really cool.
And we're also planning to add support for transfer of tokens. So, such as we already have connections to every chain that we are displaying balances from, it means that it shouldn't be a big problem for us to add support for transfer. And plus, we're planning to add support for multi-account view, so that lots of people have multiple accounts contributing to different crowd loans. And of course, it will be very helpful to have to be able to see your balances across different accounts. So these are some of the features that we're planning to work on. But right now we're very, very focused on crowd loan stuff.
Excellent. Well, we're excited for the crowd loan, and I cannot wait to see social finance with my own eyes and use it. So keep up the good work. And I don't know if you guys want to share something extra with the people, or can you tell them where to find you guys on the social networks, on Subsocial and everything?
Yeah, our website is subsocial.network. If you go to subsocial.network/links, there's our link tree with all of our links, and probably the most important one is the jobs link on there, as we are hiring. Or you can also just go to subsocial.network/jobs, especially if you are a developer.
Excellent. And well, if that's it, well, thank you guys for coming. I think it was really helpful for people to understand the concept of Subsocial, that it's not the web app that everybody knows, but it's actually the backend. So,
yeah, by the way, about web app, we also built a mobile app.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't release it, but we actually completed lots of functionality. I mean, it's like, I don't know, 85-90% considering from what point to look on this, but it already has lots of functionality. But such as, again, as I mentioned, we are very focused on crowd loans, so we don't want to rush releasing this app because we need to ensure that everything works properly and polished and all those things. But the app is like very, very close, and if anyone is interested, we can send the APK file for Android, for example. But yeah, we didn't release it on Apple Store or Android market yet. Also, we're working on several simplified application examples for Subsocial, so that people can grab them, because they will be open sourced on hackathons and create their social dApps.
Nice.
And we're building even a second mobile app So one is in Flutter, and another one is in React Native. So the goal is to have several example applications that will make life easier for people to hack on top of Subsocial.
Excellent. First, I think mobile apps are the future. Many of the people that are watching on phones. So I think that's definitely a really useful tool for people having the app on the phone. And second, those tools are really cool. I think, do you know Wix for building websites? Yes. So do you plan to build something like that so people can create their own social network on top of Subsocial?
Yeah, so such sites like Wix, Tilda, Squarespace, what is the name of it? Webflow, I don't remember exactly, but there are like lots of them. So it's called like no code, because people can build something with zero or almost no code.
Yeah.
And it means that if you have this tool for socials, and people could create social networks or niche communities left and right, it should be super cool. And for me, I actually have this idea written down in my tasks, like maybe for a couple of years already.
Nice.
And I believe that this is a very good stuff to be implemented during hackathons, for example. Like some of the good ideas that I would like to see people implemented are like import-export to from Medium, WordPress, Twitter, and then create solutions for no code. I mean, technically it's totally doable and possible, but like right now, such as we're a relatively small team, we don't have hundreds or thousands of people. We cannot work on everything all together. Even like working on blockchain and web app and sub ID, it's lots of work, and we try to not work on everything that we like. Only on something that is very, very interesting. I mean, useful and important. But like this no code is super, super interesting. But we just don't have capacity to work on it. So we hope for people to apply through grants, to work on some hackathons, would be very interested to see such solutions. It would be super crazy, like you mentioned, creating like your next simplified Twitter in just one evening.
Exactly. No, I think that's going to be huge. And I think you're going to do it, but step by step, like you said, and focus on the main basics so you can build heavy stuff on top of social. Well, guys, thank you for your time, Alex, Zach, and we hopefully have you again in the future once we have a Subsocial parachain running.
Yeah, maybe parachain plus mobile app, so we can review something very cool and interesting.
Definitely. Well, thank you guys, and take care.
Thank you very much.